to touch on the werewolf thing because Twilight, the series of novels, has made these particular creatures equally as popular as vampires, and I do tend to think that they can be pushed too much to the side, and I know Carl Anderson would agree with me on this one. So what I'm going to do, first and foremost, I'm just going to refer to Wikipedia for quite a lot of the information here. Now, according to Wikipedia, it's also known as a lycanthrope, and it's a mythological or folkloric human with the ability to shapeshift into a wolf or a theanthropic hybrid wolf-like creature, either purposely or being placed under a curse or affliction, for example, like a bite or a scratch from another werewolf, and it usually takes place, this transformation, under the full moon. Now, of course, unlike vampires, these are more predators rather than romantic figures, although I should point out that vampires are equally predators. Werewolves are the ones who strike whilst the iron's hot. They don't care what gets in their way. They just want meat. Oh my gosh, meat. It's lovely. And in fact, Wee Jock, aka John Alexander Ross, says, hungry like the wolf. Ah, woo! I do love making that sound. No, seriously, my night owls, do you ever go out under the full moon and just let yourself howl? If not, you should. It is extremely freeing. Now, I don't know what it is, but it just literally relieves the tension. Now, I want to try a little experiment. Now, whether you're on Facebook, Twitter, or on audioburger.com's chat room, I want you to howl with me, just to show unity in the wonderful feel. And let me know when you've done it, and let me know how that feels. 1, 2, 3. Ow! Did you do it, my night owls? If so, how did it feel? Fantastic, isn't it? Oh dear, absolutely wonderful. I love it. But there is something about the wolf. Oh, that is absolutely fantastic. Now, actually, Jonathan Ross, not the Jonathan Ross, John Alexander Ross, he's just posted up, shame you don't have a bark at the moon. Well, that can happen as well. But that is true, though. That is where the whole thing comes from. That whole phrase, bark at the moon, it's because of these werewolves. Jack Chandler's done it. That's really, really good. Thank you, Jack. And, oh, fantastic. Rango's just done it full blast. Silk's a little bit hoarse after this. Oh dear. I'm sure you sure that's not a reference to the whole horse and the meat burgers? Oh, I don't know. Gothic Raven's just gone PMSL. And Gothic's just done a woo and woo, and everybody's going, siren fade out, says Sweet Chalk. Oh dear. Scotty DeHottie says, that feels better. Oh, I love it. I love the whole vibe going on here. It's just fantastic. Now, I say this whole thing that they are definitely separate from vampires, but in one way they're not, because there are some vampiric connections, but I'll get on to that in a moment. But, you know, if we go on to common attributes here. Now, according to Wikipedia, they were said in European folklore to bear telltale physical traits even in human form, which included the meeting of both eyebrows at the bridge of the nose, a curved fingernails, low-set ears, and a swinging stride. And one method of identifying a werewolf in human form is to cut the flesh of the accused under the pretense that fur would be seen within the wound. And a Russian superstition actually recalls a werewolf can be recognized by bristles under the tongue. Now that's quite odd if you have that's quite odd if you have to lift a tongue up. Talk about getting personal. Yeah, I'm not getting personal or for trying to French kiss you. I'm just going to check the bristles. I could just see that happening, quite frankly. No, but there's also other ways you can have a look at it as well. Now, of course, as we all know, and the appearance of the werewolf changes from different countries, different beliefs, lots of different things as well. Now, some Swedish accounts can distinguish a werewolf from the fact that it would run on three legs, stretching the fourth one backwards to look like a tail, which is quite interesting. And commonly, of course, the werewolf is distinguished from the fact that it apparently has no tail, which is a trait thought characteristic of witches in animal form, but that's a different topic. And it's often larger and also retains human eyes and voice. Now, of course, there's just all sorts of things to become a werewolf, and again, I'll refer to Wikipedia for this. It's absolutely brilliant, Wikipedia, you should use it. Now, various methods are there, and now it says that there are some aspects of magic which can be quite interesting in itself. Now, in Italy, France, and Germany, it once was said, that a man or a woman could turn into a werewolf if he or she, on a certain Wednesday or a Friday, slept outside on a summer night with the full moon shining directly on their face, which is quite interesting. Now, there's a 16th century Swedish writer called Aulus Magnus, and he says that the Livonian werewolves were initiated by draining a cup of specially prepared beer and repeating a set formula, which is quite interesting. And actually, Ralston, who's quite an interesting philosopher, he wrote this book called Songs of the Russian People, and he actually gives the form of incantation to become a werewolf, which is still familiar in Russia, which is quite interesting. Now, there are some that are associated with Satan and just generally for the sake of craving flesh. And it's just like I pointed out, the whole thing with the werewolf is very much to kill. It really is. Now, again, this is quite interesting. Now, here we go. Gothic Ravens just come up with quite an interesting thing. The wolf thing gives way to the term lunar, which gives way to why it was given to the word. Oops, sorry. Now, the chat room thing keeps going up and down. It's given to the word lunacy, meaning to change or be affected by moon changes, which still has a connection with modern mental health. Now, this is true because she is a psychiatric nurse, so thank you for that, Gothic. That's quite interesting. And of course, Luna being in the full room, and and it's quite interesting. In fact, there's a few films being mentioned as well, apart from the whole Twilight connection. Now, in fact, Silk here has just mentioned a brilliant film, which, of course, was wonderful Jack Nicholson, who actually took on the role of a werewolf at one point. And it's quite. And I have to agree with a lot of what's been said here. He may have been a good werewolf, but he was still the best Joker in Batman. Yeah, I quite agree with what's been going on in the chat room. And that's quite fun, really. I just love this kind of thing. Now, of course, the werewolf can be interpreted as a misunderstood character, because after the whole thing with the transformation, quite a lot of the time, they are then recognized as weak and drained a lot of the time, just simply because they've been up all night. But it is that whole thing with, again, referring to the mental health there, which Gothic Ravens just brought up, and that is the fact that a lot of the time they remember nothing. In fact, I remember this 1940s film which undergoes a similar thing, although it's not werewolves, but it was called Cat People, and it was in the 1940s. And the whole thing was centered around this girl who was rather mysterious, and she kept herself to herself. And although she got married, there were times when she disappeared. I don't know why. Nobody knows why. Until it is revealed later on that she undergoes a transformation, but not into a werewolf, but a cat. Yes, and yes, Scotty says, "Oh my God, I loved that film when I was little. She turned into a Black Panther." She did indeed, because it was associated with her ancestry, her Persian ancestry. But a lot of it was something she couldn't remember during that transformation. It was quite shocking. In fact, when you look at a 1940s film, a lot of the time there is a huge focus on suggestion. And I tell you what, that is the most powerful thing out of um, out of that era, because that's the best form of horror ever. Quite frankly, I mean, there was a remake of that film. I think it was the late 70s, early 80s, in which they revamped that film, but just didn't have the whole thing like the 1940s film did. It's quite shocking, really. And if you haven't seen it, check out Cat People. In fact, no, I won't say that just yet in case it doesn't come off. However, let's just say that there are some things bubbling down here in the pipeline, apparently, to try and get it on stage. But that's all I'm going to say at this moment in time. Now, I'm going to go back into the requests a little here. Now, Scotty, funnily enough, he sent in last week a beautiful track by Nox Arcana. And although I played it last week to end the show, I'm going to play it again because it's just a most gorgeous, gorgeous track. Nox Arcana fuse classical music with film style music, so film style soundtrack, gothic with a little bit of metal and dark atmospheric overtones. And this is quite appropriate, really. This is called Night of the Wolf by Nox Arcana, and it really does sum up the whole thing with the werewolf association. And after this, we're going to change the pace a little. So, enjoy. If I can get it working.